You know that random scam message you deleted this morning without a second thought? Well, it turns out that's just the tiny, visible tip of a terrifying iceberg. Behind it, there's a massive, state-protected criminal industry that's operating on a scale that's almost impossible to wrap your head around. Today, we're going to peel back the layers on how Cambodia somehow became the global headquarters for industrial-scale cybercrime.
So let's just start with the money, because the number is staggering. We're talking about an estimated annual revenue as high as $19 billion. To put that into perspective for you, that's almost 60% of Cambodia's entire official GDP. I mean, this isn't just a crime wave. It's a whole parallel economy, and it's built on a very specific and very cruel method.
So how in the world do they get that much money out of people? Well, the main method is this deeply manipulative psychological scam called pig butchering, and it's a disturbingly perfect name for it. The scammers, who are often victims of trafficking themselves, are forced to spend weeks, sometimes months, building this deep, personal, often romantic relationship with a target, the pig. They fatten them up with trust and affection before, leading them to the slaughter, which is convincing them to drain their entire life savings into fake crypto investment apps.
But that brings up a huge question. Who are the people on the other end of your phone, meticulously running these scams day in and day out? Well, this financial empire is built on the back of an immense human tragedy. Let's take a look at the human engine that actually powers this whole machine.
It all starts with a lie. You'll see these ads on Facebook or other sites promising these amazing, high-paying, easy office jobs in tech or customer service, a chance at a new life. But the reality for the people who get lured to Cambodia is an absolute nightmare. They're trafficked into these fortified compounds, their passports are taken away, and they're forced to work more than 12 hours a day, trapped in what is basically modern-day slavery through debt bondage.
Now, this is just chilling. It was taken inside one of these scam compounds. The sign, in its broken English, says, "Today work you hard enough." It's supposed to be motivational, right? But survivors from this exact location have told stories of horrific violence and torture. It's this constant, menacing psychological tool, a reminder of the brutal system they're trapped in.
And the sheer scale of this human trafficking it's just breathtaking. The United Nations estimates that as many as 150,000 people have been trafficked from over 70 different countries. They're all being forced to work inside Cambodia's scam compounds right now. This is a truly global crisis, one that's fueled by a captive international workforce.
This quote from an Amnesty International report just captures the horror perfectly. "I was someone else's property." Survivors talk about being treated not like people, but like commodities. They're bought, they're sold, and they're traded between different compounds if they don't meet their scamming quotas. It's the absolute total loss of freedom.
And this is how that control is maintained, through just systematic, sadistic abuse. We're talking about beatings, electrocution, being locked in pitch-black torture rooms for days. Survivors talk about being starved, deprived of sleep, and publicly humiliated just to intimidate everyone else. And if you resist or you fail to make your numbers, you just get sold to another compound, often one with an even worse reputation for violence.
Now, an operation this big, this visible, it can't just exist in a vacuum. It really raises the most important question of all. How is this even allowed to happen? Who are the powerful people protecting this multi-billion-dollar criminal enterprise? And the answer, according to mountains of research, is pretty unambiguous. This entire industry thrives because it's systematically supported by the state. And we're not just talking about a few rogue cops taking bribes here. We are talking about deep, endemic corruption, reliable protection from the government, and direct involvement by the country's ruling political class.
And look, this isn't just an allegation. The data completely backs it up. This is Cambodia's profile from the Global Organized Crime Index. You can see the incredibly high scores for criminality, and this is the key part, for state-embedded actors. And at the same time, its resilience score, its ability to actually fight organized crime, is incredibly low. This is pretty much the textbook definition of a state that's been captured by criminal interests.
So, let's name some names. Research directly implicates some of the most powerful people in the entire country. You've got the Deputy Prime Minister, Sarsoka, who's been a co-investor in a notorious scam compound. You have Senator Lee Yong-pot, who has been sanctioned by the U.S. for his links to these operations. Hun Ton, a Prime Minister's own cousin, is a director at a company that's been identified as a key money launderer for the industry. And Chen Ji, a former advisor to the Prime Minister, has actually been indicted by the U.S. for running forced labor camps. This goes right to the very top.
And these places aren't secret, hidden bunkers either. Just look at the scale of this complex. This is the Kaibo, or KB compound, in the city of Sihanoukville. These are massive, purpose-built cities of fraud, operating right out in the open, often with uniformed police officers providing their security. They operate with total impunity because they know they have protection from the highest levels.
The sheer scale and the absolute brutality of this industry has, thankfully, finally triggered a real response. As the financial and the human costs have just skyrocketed across the globe, the international community has started to fight back, and they're targeting the system's architects and their money. So let's look at how this is ramped up. Back in 2023, Interpol issued a global warning. By 2024, the U.S. started sanctioning key figures like Senator Lai Yong-pat. Then in 2025, we saw coordinated sanctions from both the US and the UK, and a major money laundering hub, the Yuanian Group, was basically cut off from the entire US financial system. The pressure really culminated in early 2026 with the arrest and extradition of a kingpin, Chen Zi. The walls are definitely starting to close in.
So what's the strategy here? Well, it's really a multi-pronged attack. First, you've got targeted sanctions against the oligarchs and the officials who are providing that political protection. Second, financial isolation, cutting off their ability to launder money through the global system. Third, direct law enforcement, like indicting and extraditing major players. And finally, building partnerships, like the joint task force between South Korea and Cambodia to try and tackle the problem on the ground.
And all of this brings us to the final, really critical question. The international response is growing, for sure, but it's targeting an industry that has woven itself into the very fabric of the host country's political and economic systems. So when state power and organized crime are this deeply connected, can pressure from the outside ever really be enough to dismantle it for good? That, right there, remains the challenge.